Let's go to speak and joining us right now is Jonathan Sacerdoti, I24 News Europe analyst. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Lucy.
So, Jonathan, we heard that Parliament is still debating. They still haven't got a concrete or specific decision about what will happen. But, you know, what will be the effect if the decision eventually will be that Britain will join the forces and will start attacking in Syria?
Well, as you say, that debate is still going on. It's going into its sixth or so hour. It's due to last about 10 hours, and then there's an amendment to be voted on. So it's a long day in Parliament. But the question is exactly what will happen even if, let's say when, this is approved, this is passed, because it's most likely that it will be. And the answer is that it will allow Britain the opportunity to engage in bombing of Syria. In a strange way, it's not actually a very big deal because Britain is already bombing in Iraq. It's simply extending that particular mission, and the very fact that it wasn't able to take part in bombing over Syria was already a peculiarity. When Daesh doesn't really recognize the boundary between Syria and Iraq, it seemed peculiar that Britain was restricting itself on one side of that boundary. So that is really, in part, what Mr. Cameron is saying. But it has been blown into a much bigger issue here, one of Labour versus Conservative, one of Labour versus Labour, and in fact one of going to war. But in actual fact, Britain is already at war with that coalition.
Jonathan, let's talk a little bit about the public opinion on this specific matter, because we saw that the intervention of France is costed a lot. It costed in human lives, it's costed in its home ground security. And what we're seeing right now, that maybe the British people will, at the end of the day, will pay the price for Britain intervening in what is happening in Syria.
So Mr. Cameron's made it pretty clear that he doesn't feel that Britain's intervention in bombing in Syria will make a difference to the risk of British people here in the UK. And he says that's because we're already at such high risk. He thinks that Britain is already on a par with Paris, though, of course, that attack happened there and not here. But he said that could have happened here just as easily, and we could have been asking the French to join us in strikes. And that's why, through a system of solidarity as well as everything else, he wishes for Britain to be able to go and strike in Syria from the air. However, the public opinion has altered on this. At the time of that child washed up on the beach, public opinion was very high for Britain getting involved. And even last week, in the aftermath of those Paris attacks, public opinion was very much in support of these RAF strikes over Syria. But a new poll today published in The Times by YouGov showed that public opinion has dropped slightly from 59% to 48% in support since those Paris attacks. And the public opinion against has risen from 20% to 31%. This is a slight shift, and Mr. Corbyn, the Labour leader, has really gone to town on that in this debate today, saying that the reason that David Cameron has rushed for the debate to be held today and the vote to be held this evening is because he can see that the tide of opinion is changing in the country, and he wants to push this through before people have changed their mind. That's what Mr. Corbyn is saying about Mr. Cameron's plans.
Yes, Jonathan Sacerdoti, thank you very much for this.